Hello, folks. This is your ticker update for the 15th. We're going to do a little peachy, but I want to emphasize what I said in the ticker I wrote this morning, which is if you're a young person without children in school, I don't care if you're single or if you're in a relationship or you're married, and you're not really happy where you are today. I mean really happy. Where like you wake up every morning with a smile on your face because of where you live. Get off your butt and move right now. Do it. Go. Change that. Change it today. If you have some way to do it, Yeah, I know. You don't. Nobody ever has enough money. Okay? So what? You can always get a job somewhere. You'll find a way. Find a way. We have hard limits facing us in our economy within the next few years. The window to fix them is still open, but it is rapidly closing. And at the point that it slams on your fingers, you're not going to get any warning. Everybody says, oh, it's not that big a deal. Well, you know what? Supposedly here in Florida, where I live right now, we have no state income tax. But as I point out, if you have to go over that damned bridge in order to get to work on a reasonable basis, yes, you do. If you're working a $10 an hour job on a part-time basis, that income tax could be as high as 20%. If you're working at that same $10 an hour job on a full-time 40-hour-a-week basis, that income tax is 10%. And if you happen to be making $40,000 a year, it's still 5%. By the way, may I point out that most states that have an income tax have a lower rate of income tax than that? You think it's just here in this part of Florida? No, it's not. How about the Chicago Skyway? Same damn thing. What's happened to the tolls to get into Manhattan or anywhere else around that area in the Northeast? Same damn thing. Oh, but there's no inflation. No, we're just going to tax the living blankety blank out of you, but we don't call it inflation. And you don't even get to deduct that on your federal income taxes. It comes right off your top line. You don't pay it, you don't get it, you lose your job. You're not there. That's not the only screwing, of course. Health insurance, everything, and health care generally and everything else. But look, if you're young, you probably don't need it right now. So take advantage of it today. Right now. Why so strikingly strong? Get out there, do it now. Don't wait. Don't tell me you're going to do it in another 2 years or whatever. None of this planning a year, 2 years, 5 years forward. Cut it out. You don't have that kind of time. It's like the doc that comes in and says, "Hey, jackass, you got cancer. And by the way, we can't cut it out of you. It's in too many places." You know, that happened to my mother. Of course, she was in her 80s. She accepted it. You know what? When you're in your 80s, when the doc says that, one of the things you try to do, all right, well, you know, what can we do so it isn't going to hurt? She did okay with that. She had a couple of weeks at the end that were really bad. The rest, not so much. She was up and around, doing her own thing, making her own food, enjoying her life in her house. It was all fine. Right up until those last couple of weeks, not so much. But when I get to be that, if I get to be that age, if I get that lucky, and the same kind of thing happens to me, I'm not going to complain about it. We all die of something. But if it happens when you're 25, it's a whole different game. And by the way, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about that, but I know somebody that did happen to as a young adult. And that really sucked. Really badly. You never know. But you know, the odds of that happening to you as a young adult medically are very low. It's not something you want to let stick in your head. You can get all bent out of shape about it. You can get all worried about it. But quite honestly, the odds are not very high. You have much greater odds that sometime within the next 3 or 4 years, it's all going to go to hell in our economy, in our markets, right here at home. And that's if the political side of things doesn't blow up and lead to some kind of a serious dislocation first. We have the state of Virginia that's threatening at the state house level to send the National Guard into the rural areas of the state and confiscate firearms. We have this, and on the other side of that, we have sheriffs who are threatening to deputize every single non-felon citizen in order to stop them from doing it. You realize what that means? That means that two groups of people, both of them with guns, are going to threaten to kill each other if they don't do what they want. We're talking about 500,000 Virginia citizens. Or you could potentially have a state that is a literal no-go zone this year in 2020. May I remind you that state borders Washington, D.C. Is that the only place? No. There's many others. We had a little ratchet down today and that the UN conference ended the way Greta didn't want it to, after she essentially threatened that young people were going to put politicians up against the wall. And she tried to claim that didn't mean she was threatening to kill them. Bull. How many socialist and communist dictators have used exactly that sort of language over the last 100 years? Oh, pretty much all of them. Good God. But no, the real threat here isn't that. It isn't the 2024 impending blow-up of Medicare and Medicaid and what's going to do to the federal budget. It's what we got in the Horowitz report, the IG report. You know, the IG report, I read it now. Folks, I know, reading 400-page reports is not fun, okay? But I did. And I have to tell you, we're not talking about mistakes. The FBI knew that Carter Page was a CIA asset. In addition, the IG report makes clear that the Steele dossier was not just a trivial part of what was going on when those warrants were originally put together and the Mueller investigation was opened. They were the reason it happened. They knew Carter Page was a CIA asset, not a Russian one. They lied. It wasn't an accident. It was an intentional act. In addition to that, there was an allegation made during the primary season and during the time leading up to the convention, if you remember, that the GOP removed a platform plank favorable to Russia and that this was part of the conspiracy that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. Well, they now know that's false. That's in there too. So all the way back to before the election, all of these people knew that this was a load of bullshit. You had our government not just try to tamper in an election, but it went on after the election. They tried to destroy an elected president. Our government did that, not just the Democrats. Get this through your head, folks. We're not talking about partisans. Listen, there's nothing unusual about partisan rancor in the United States. Anyone who thinks that there is needs to go read some history. All the violence that's happened in the House and Senate chambers, for crying out loud. Look, the place has been bombed a couple of times. The Weather Underground did that, by the way. It was one of Obama's buddies. But there have been several violent incidents, large numbers of them. And during the time leading up to the Civil War, when slavery was going on, at one point there was actually a duel, believe it or not. But there were several violent incidents that went on and even a fist fight. So, look, anyone that thinks that kind of thing between the partisan parties is unusual, you're crazy. You have rocks in your head. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the actual apparatus of the government being used to destroy an elected president and remove a government. That is a putsch. Folks, the FBI and the DOJ, those people have guns. They carry them. That's the whole point. It's the Justice Department. It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the police force. The police force of the United States tried to remove, under knowingly false pretense, the President of the United States. Nobody's going to jail yet. Do you think this is all just going to kind of fade away? All of these different things, all these pressures, you think these aren't all interrelated? Of course they are. What do you do when you get to the point that you can't print any more money because now you got the Federal Reserve? How many billions, $200, $300 billion that they put in the system on the claim that there aren't enough reserves in order to balance transactions when we have near zero interest rates and $1.3 trillion in excess reserves on deposit from the banks? Is that money really there? Or is that a fraud too? Are we teetering on the edge of a fiscal collapse right now? I don't know. But the magnitude of what's been going on there is equal or greater to what they did in 2008 to try to forestall what they said was an absolute disaster that was going to destroy the country. And they're doing just as much, but they're doing it very quietly. And oh boy, they're not talking about why. Jerome Powell, no, we can't, there's no big deal going on there. Excuse me? If I got to come up with an extra $20, that's not a big deal. When you're talking about $300 billion in the space of a month or so, it sure as hell is. Something is going on. But we're not being told what it is. All these different things, all of them connected together. Look, do I think that the world's going to end tomorrow and everything's going to go to crap? No. Do we have a hard line out there somewhere in the next 4 or 5 years? Yes. Are we going to get there? No, because history says you never do. The market always throws up on it first. The government always throws up on it first. The banks always throw up on it first. People throw up on it first because they figure it out that the politicians and the regulators are not going to do a damn thing, and they say, the hell with this. It always happens that way. So if you're a young person and you're not pleased, completely pleased with your circumstances, change them right now. Go do what makes you happy. Find a way to survive. Yeah, whatever. All right. I mean, if you got to you got to flip burgers, do that. If it means that you get to wake us up somewhere where every time that you look out the window, you smile. If I'm wrong about this, you've lost nothing. The economy will boom. Trump will become the great savior of the world. The trade situation will resolve itself. China will be our friends. Everything will be peachy keen and wonderful and beautiful, and you'll be much, much better off economically. And not only that, you'll have a smile on your face the whole time. But if I'm right, and it all goes to hell in a year, or 6 months, or 2 years, you won't be sitting where you're sitting right now, hating things half the time, and saying, by God, I never went and saw Yellowstone. Think about it. I get it if you've got other obligations and it's not so easy. But for those of you that are in your late teens and through your 20s, and you don't have a couple of kids of school age yet, you haven't bought a house, you're renting something or whatever, good God, do it, and do it now. Back when I was that age, we still thought with the Russians and the United States might nuke each other. We really did. I mean, it wasn't nearly, this was during the time of Reagan. And I seriously thought about going over. By God, I was going to get in a plane and I was going to go over to Europe and I was going to do the Rail Pass thing and go to the hostels and all that, and I didn't do it. Europe is still there. But so much of what it was culturally and everything else, with all that they've done, with all the refugees they've brought in and the craziness that's gone on in certain places from a criminal perspective and everything else, so much of that is gone. That opportunity is gone. I can't do it today. It's not that I can't get in the plane and go do it, because I can, and I have the money to do it too. And you know what? I had the money to do it then. But I didn't do it. And I should have. I regret that. Not because I couldn't go visit, but because what I was going to go see doesn't exist. That kind of change is going to come here, folks. I just don't know how bad. But take advantage of what you can still have here, now, and today while it's there. I mean, take a guy. And now go out, get out there, and enjoy your life.